Welcome to this very special Meet the Miniatures. Thank you for joining at home today. I have a very, very special guest with us. It is a maker who I just discovered very, very short time ago, Jonathan Steadman. Jonathan Steadman from House of Mirth Miniatures. He is a New York City-based miniaturist out of, originally from New Orleans, very entrepreneurial from the design sort of, and design and luxury product space. And he brings that knowledge and passion for miniatures to his point of view of for all of the miniatures that he makes. I can't wait to introduce him and for you to see him and some of his work in case you don't know him already. So thank you, Jonathan, for joining us today. So great to have you. Why don't you tell us about yourself? Talk a little bit about your background. I want to hear about your entrepreneurial spirit and your design aesthetic. And then we're going to talk about how that transitions into some of the beautiful miniatures that you make.
Hi, Darren. Thank you so much for having me. So my miniatures, I think they're very design driven. I have a background in design. It's what I went to school for. And I moved to New York right out of college to pursue that. And my career took many different avenues over the course and ended up in miniatures, which is the most recent iteration of what I've been exploring. So.
Yeah. Can you talk more about what is the hands-on every day in that design world that you're from?
So most recently, before I was doing miniatures, and I'm still doing this, I design home products, which can be in many different mediums, from wood to porcelain to soft goods and metal. And I was designing for several brands, mostly in the luxury space. And the fun thing about miniatures is I taught myself CAD since doing miniatures, and I kind of have started recreating some of those things that I make in large scale in Mini. And I have some examples I can even show you where I have like a large thing that I made or have, and then I made it in Mini so that I have two versions of it, which I think is super fun.
So you have this, I want to share just some of the pieces that you've done. I mean, you have this, you do Christmas ornaments. These are just so lovely. Yes. And so these are,
I was just going to say, I'm a Christmas person. I've always loved Christmas. And 4 years ago, my business partner and I, we started a Christmas brand that was all mouth blown glass made in Czech Republic and Germany and Poland. And we had a Christmas ornament brand that we launched at Bergdorf Goodman here in New York. And then we took the show on the road and started marketing them. And we got them in a lot of different stores. I since have left that, but it was like a super fun project that really spoke to my passion for design and for Christmas. So it kind of married the two things perfectly.
It totally gives us an idea where your design sense is.
Mm-hmm.
When we share some of your miniatures, people are going to get it, that you have this eye for design and luxury goods, and that translates into not only the look and feel of your miniatures, but the content of your miniatures, like what you're making. But so that's really interesting. You're self-taught to CAD as in an effort to make your miniatures, correct?
Exactly. I mean, I found when I was starting miniatures, I was having a lot of trouble sourcing things, and especially like ceramics and just getting the right scale that I want or the variety. So I started making little things and little like pieces to like add on to things, and then slowly taught myself to make anything, and especially vessels for plants. Flowers and plants are kind of one of the things I started with. And I think making really interesting planters kind of just elevates a basic little flower or something.
Yeah. You also had a fragrance business as well, and you were designing for that too?
Yes, that was another iteration of my exploration back. This was, I guess this was my second career, but I started getting into natural perfumery and started studying that. I took some courses with a mentor of mine and started creating fragrance that was just made with mostly naturals. The perfume industry today, there's a lot of good stuff out there, but it's very commercial and it's a lot of chemicals, which some of the chemicals are fun. I like the chemicals, but
Yeah.
I was focusing kind of just on like dumping the most exquisite rose oil into like a blend and just having it exude that natural brilliance that I think really separates it from a lot of stuff you see.
Yeah. And did you have your hand in packaging? I mean, a little bit of everything?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I'm always a one-stop shop. I mean, I kind of do it. You have to do it all. So
yeah. And I feel like that knowledge shines through in your miniatures, because the thing that I was struck by most, not only the content, but the sizing, the proportions, the scaling.
Yeah.
If you're involved in packaging, you know how important that tiny little edge is going to make a difference.
Yeah.
And I see that, and I saw that in your miniatures. When I saw them, I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah. The devil's in the details for sure. And that's kind of, even when I finish a miniature or a design piece, you kind of need to put that last finishing touch on it. And for a miniature, it may be little cocktail picks, or in design, it could be like just the right handle for on the end of a nice big bowl or something. So
yeah,
the details are what set apart, I think, good design from fabulous stuff.
Good design. I think that you hit the nail on the head. Good design. And I don't think that always happens. You don't always see that in miniatures, but it's so vital. So how did this transition happen? Were you always interested in miniatures? Talk about that transition to, okay, were you collecting miniatures and then did you move to making and selling? Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So I think I was always probably a miniaturist. I remember my neighbor growing up. She had this like powder blue Victorian dollhouse, and she would open it up for us sometimes, my sister and I. And I just remember it was just so exquisite, and it was beautifully lit. And I especially remember the little gumball machine, which I think is super common, and a lot of dollhouses have them, and I see them in all the dollhouse shops. But I just remember that dollhouse standing out, and she told me that she would give it to me one day, but I haven't seen her in like 30 years, but that's okay.
Still thinking about it.
I haven't forgotten.
Love it. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think it's always kind of stuck with me, miniatures. And I was also like really into Legos when I was a kid, which I think is kind of the acceptable boys version of miniatures when you're a certain age. So
right.
I was doing Legos a lot when I was a kid, but yeah, in my adult miniature career started I guess 2 years ago, when because I told you I'm a Christmas person, so I was doing a Christmas display, because I always like to do a little something new for each Christmas. And I wanted to make a gingerbread house. So I got a green leaf kit and I turned it into a gingerbread house. And as soon as I built the house and I put all the candy on it, I was like, well, now it needs an interior, and it needs little cakes and little plants and furniture and stuff. So I actually never finished that project, and sadly it was lost in a basement flood. But I know. Sad.
Yeah.
Very sad. But it started the bug. I started like collecting things, practicing. I started with cakes, I guess. That's the first thing I was making, is polymer clay cakes.
Yeah.
And
you were doing this all for yourself, correct? I mean, this is you, and for the green leaf
I would just
project.
Sit in front of, like, watch a movie sometimes and just be working on little things. And I really liked it, so I just kept going with that.
We didn't talk about this. Do you have an art background? What is your background school-wise?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been artistic. I was loved painting. I was not into sports. I was doing the art class. I was always in art class, and I went to art school. I took a design and fine arts program in college, and then I started a design career when I was an art director first in New York, and it's mostly been creative from the get-go for me.
Yeah,
I have to be creative.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, of course, you have an art background. But you can't talk about that. But let's talk a little bit about your overall design aesthetic and how that translates in some of the works. You talk a little bit about your love of Christmas. So these are just a few of the shots from the show that I met you at. And so talk about some of this work, and then let's talk about the topiaries.
Okay. So I think my work generally just comes from things I love. I make things that I would want to have at my home, or things I would like to eat, or something I'd like to have. I'm also really driven by, I think, holidays. I think that they're any kind of celebratory time of the year. I think I'm into all the holidays. So I like creating things for different milestones through the year. And I think that is something that I have a lot of fun with.
Can you, sorry.
Lost you.
Can you just describe, people can't really see what is this. These are dollhouse gifts, correct?
Yes, these are paper wrapped little doll houses with little chimneys sticking out, and then some like 3mm silk ribbon. Yeah,
I think that's one of the pieces that like just blew me away, just from a content standpoint. You don't see that every day. And the topiaries. Can we talk about the topiaries?
Topiaries, yeah. That was like a last minute idea I had actually right before Philadelphia. I was like, I wanted something big and that had like a lot of presence and green. Yeah. I mean, I love plants. So I made these topiaries kind of like a week before they started. I'll show you some of them. I have this is the little poodle.
And that's that.
This was my favorite one, the poodle.
That was the trigger when I walked up to your table. I saw that poodle.
So I have the little knight.
Yeah.
Cute.
And again, this goes back to the scaling and proportions. They're just perfect. And when you're talking about miniatures, 1/32 of an inch makes a difference.
Yeah. It's a lot of trial and error, I think, because you're right. You'll do something and then you change it just to a 32nd.
Yeah.
And suddenly it just sings. It feels totally different. And
yeah. Was there a point that you knew, okay, this is right, I have it?
With the topiaries, I think they're pretty forgiving because they can come in so many sizes. But I think the flowers are the thing that I've really tried to like kind of hone perfecting the scale on those, because if you make the orchid bloom like a 16th too big, suddenly it feels like Barbie scale almost or something. And that's
wow.
Enjoy it.
So I love the breadth of content. So you do food miniatures too. You talked a little bit about that. Let's talk about some of the food miniatures. Yeah. And again, it ties into sort of your design aesthetic. Here's the champagne.
Yeah. It's like an entertaining thing. It's like food and fun. And actually it's funny enough, my first job as an art director in New York was at Food Network. So I was kind of in the food space for my first few years in New York. But I can also show you, I also brought a couple food things.
Yeah.
There.
But then I don't want to forget, I want to talk about the Barbie piece, because I think
the Barbie. I have that here too, if you want to see that.
Yeah, because it's also miniatures are about how they make you feel. And so, you see the Barbie DreamHouse, and it's just, for a lot of people, it's a trigger. It's a good trigger. And so, miniatures are important in that regard too. They make you feel something. And I think, you have the plate of caviar, you have the champagne, and then you have the Barbie. So it's like, there's so much hitting you.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's just like things that I like. So these are all things from growing up that I cared. I mean, I played with Barbies with my sister, and who didn't want a little Barbie dream house? And to have, it's just kind of funny to have like a little miniature Barbie dream house and
That
dollhouse.
is killing me.
And I make little Barbies too to go in it. I don't have any made right now.
So that 3D how is that made?
This I designed in CAD.
Okay.
And then it's all 3D printed, and there's some paper decals and then some painting, but it's mostly done in CAD.
Wow, that's great. It's also so great. So you've only been doing this for a short time. I mean, only for a few years. So when did you figure out like, okay, I'm going to sell my work? Like, how did that happen?
So I actually went to my first show. It was the 2023 show in Philadelphia. And I took my partner and his mother, and we went just for the evening, and we were going to go to dinner afterwards. And I was trying to rush through just to see it because I'd never been to a miniature show, and I was just in love. I just loved everything about it. And when I realized that I was missing the rest of the weekend, I was like, I can't believe I'm missing out. It was so much fun. I just wanted to go back there. So,
yeah.
So that was
no idea. It was your first show, so you didn't know that you need to stay for 2 days.
Yeah, but then I had the bug, and then I went to Chicago as a shopper last year, and then I went to the Guild show,
okay,
which is nearby, and then
Yeah.
we went to London in November.
wow. So
So
you just hit it all. You're like,
Yeah,
okay, now
no looking back. I had to go to all the shows.
yeah. And but at that point, had you wanted to make it a business, or this was still
Okay, so yeah, my
Sure.
first show was because I was selling. I sell at Tiny Dollhouse in Manhattan. I approached him like a year and a half ago, and he started selling some of my little food, and so that he was my first account. And then I have an Etsy, but I was like, I'm just going to make a lot of work and give it a shot. So I went to Philadelphia, and it was all well received, and I had fun. It's nice to share your work with people who appreciate it, and that was
So Philly was the first show, end of 2024, fall of 2024.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah. And you say it was well received. I'm not surprised.
I was happy.
Did that help formulate? Like, I mean, was that what you expected? What did you learn from that? Are you gonna do more shows? That's a big question I have.
I had no expectations, honestly, because I mean, no one had seen my work before that. So except for a few people, I guess, who found me on Etsy or something. But yeah, it went really well. I got a lot of great feedback and learned what people responded to, and the answer is yes. I'm actually planning on doing a lot of shows this year, I think. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm doing
what does that mean? Wait, does that mean, are you going to London and doing the London show? Did I see?
yeah, I'm doing May.
That's pretty humongous.
I know. I went and I met with Charlotte there, and I showed her some of my stuff and told her I'd love to be part of the show. And
Wow.
so I'm going.
That's big.
Yeah,
Big.
I loved it. It was such a like a wonderful little show.
Yeah.
Not
Little,
little, actually.
a big show.
A big show.
But it's good that you walked it first.
Yeah, I wanted to see it, and so I have some friends who were exhibitors there, and also going to shop. So we all went, and we had a great time.
That is just awesome.
Yeah.
So, so you use CAD, you use 3D most, and you do embellish with traditional material.
Yeah, I mean, I only got my 3D printer like less than a year ago. So 3D printing is kind of a new thing for me, but I'm running with it. But I like to, even with my 3D prints, I try to add some kind of embellishments or hand painting just to make it feel more real, because sometimes, I mean, just off the printer, sometimes they feel a little plasticky.
Yeah.
So they need a little help sometimes, I find.
So talk a little bit about your process. I mean, what inspires you? I mean, everything inspires you. I mean, where does
I mean, I love going to like antique stores, or even like there's a website, First Dibs, which has a lot of antiques. I'm always looking around for stuff, or eBay, just getting ideas from vintage stuff, which is how I get inspired and look for references when I'm doing full scale work too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So what is, I mean, we learned a little bit about what's next for you. You're going to be doing as many shows.
I've confirmed that I'm doing Chicago and London in May, and then I'm in conversations with a couple other shows. Hopefully we'll do those too, because I just love being part of the community and getting out there, showing your work. It's just like, it's a fun thing to do.
So what haven't you made that's on the docket that might be either a bucket list item, or what can
I have, what I want to do is, this is my my townhouse, the House of Mirth, which is kind of a background for all of my stuff on Instagram. And I want to do a bigger dollhouse, honestly. I live in an apartment, so that's not really realistic, but I started a conversation with a store here in New York for a big project. So fingers crossed that it could be really cool. I'm excited, and hopefully can.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll have to keep following, of course.
Yeah.
Where did the name of your business come about? How did that come about?
It's a novel I read by Edith Wharton a while ago, The House of Mirth, but and it takes place in New York. And I love her writing, and it's just and mirth means joy, and I just think that lent itself nicely to the brand.
It really does. Wow. So this has been awesome, and we will continue to follow on your Instagram. We'll pop that below so folks can find you. Do you take commission work? Should somebody be interested in having something made?
I love that, because I get bored making too much of the same thing over and over again. I'm always looking to do something new. So commissions are right up my alley, because I like the challenge.
Well, we will be following along. We're happy that you're part of the miniatures world. I think you're bringing some really great, unique, beautiful designs, great content. So we will continue to follow. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you at home for joining us. This has been an awesome Meet the Miniaturist. And thank you again, Jonathan.
Thank you so much, Darren.
All right. Take care. Bye, everybody at home.